The dying planet the sun was large and angry in the sky. The land was dry, cracked and dead. No trees, no water, no sound. Just wind. And silence. She walked alone. Her skin was soft and silver blue. Her eyes glowed like small moons. She was not human. She was something older, something wiser. Her name was Vera, and she was the last of her kind. In her arms, she carried a small glass pod. Inside the pod were tiny glowing creatures, soft, floating like jellyfish. But their light was fading. One of them twitched, then stopped moving. "No, not you too," Vera whispered. Her voice was weak, her hands shaking. She dropped to her knees and opened the pod for just a second. A soft sound came from inside. Like a baby crying, Vera took a cloth and touched it to her lips. She had a small water pouch. Only a few drops were left. She squeezed one drop onto the cloth, then gently pressed it into the pod. One of the creatures moved a little. Its glow became brighter, then faded again. It was not enough. Vera closed her eyes. She could still remember the world before, the green trees, the blue rivers, the songs of her people. All gone, burned by war, fire, and greed. She stood up again. Her feet were bare. The ground was hot, but she kept walking. She had to find help. She had to find water. Far ahead, a strange shape stood on the horizon. A dark object in the sand. It was not part of her world. It was metal. It was human. 3 days ago, a human spaceship had crashed on the edge of this dead planet. No signal had gone out. No help had come. Inside the broken ship, a man opened his eyes. His name was Eli Carson, a repair engineer from Earth. His forehead was bleeding and his arm was twisted in pain, but he was alive. He looked around. The ship was broken. Systems offline, no power, no air outside. He checked his emergency pack. 1 bottle of water, 1 ration bar, 1 flare. "Perfect," he said, coughing. "Just perfect." He sat back and listened to the silence. Then he heard something, a faint noise outside, like wind or footsteps. Vera stood near the wreckage, watching carefully. She could sense something, a mind, a heartbeat, a life. She touched the metal wall of the ship. It was cold and dead. But inside, someone was moving. The human Eli heard the soft sound. He turned and looked through the small window. He saw her. He froze. "What the hell?" he whispered. She didn't look like anything from Earth. Her face was gentle, not human, but not terrifying. Her eyes glowed like stars. She didn't attack. She didn't speak. She just looked. Tired, sad, dying. Eli opened the emergency hatch halfway. The hot air hit him like fire. Are you real?" he asked. She didn't answer. She took a step forward, then fell to her knees. Eli rushed out, grabbing her before she hit the ground. "Hey, don't die now, come on," he said. Her hands were cold. Her breathing was slow. She clutched the glass pod tightly. He looked at the creatures inside. "What the hell are those?" he muttered. They glowed weakly, like tiny stars about to go dark. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Her lips moved. No words, just a whisper, a plea. Eli carried her into the shade of the broken ship. He opened his water bottle. He thought for a moment, then gave her a small sip. She coughed, then took another. She sat up slowly. Her eyes met his. She held up the pod, showed him the dying creatures. He shook his head. "I don't know what you want." She touched the air, and a soft blue light formed in front of them. It showed moving pictures, memories, a beautiful green world, waterfalls, forests, her people laughing. Then fire, smoke, explosions. Everything turned black. Her creatures, her children, trapped in a pod, trying to survive. Now, only 5 were left. She looked at Eli, eyes full of pain. He understood. "They need water?" he asked. She nodded. He looked at his bottle. half full. He looked at the desert outside. He looked back at her. In that moment, 2 lives changed, 1 alien, 1 human. Both alone, both running out of time. And somewhere deep inside the sand, something else was watching. Waiting. The last human. The wind howled through the broken edges of the ship. Dust danced in the air like ghosts. Eli sat in silence. He wasn't looking at the stars. He was looking at her. The alien woman. She was asleep now, breathing slow and soft, her silver blue skin glowing faintly under the dim light. In her arms, she held the pod of creatures, like a mother protecting her children. Even in sleep, her fingers were wrapped tightly around it. Eli leaned against the metal wall, staring at the last few drops in his water bottle. He wanted to drink it. He needed it. But every time he looked at the pod, he couldn't lift the bottle to his lips. Back on Earth, they used to say humans were selfish. Always taking, always destroying. But now on a dead world, Eli was the last human. And all he wanted to do was give. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photo. It was old, folded many times. A girl, maybe 6 years old, smiling with missing teeth. His daughter. He touched the photo gently. "I promised you I'd come home," he whispered. "Guess I lied." The alien woman stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. She looked at Eli, then at the bottle in his hand. She shook her head and pushed it back toward him. He smiled weakly. "I think they need it more than I do," he said, nodding toward the pod. She hesitated. Then held out her hand. A soft blue light flickered from her palm. It floated in the air between them, shaping itself into an image, a mountain with water flowing beneath it. Eli stared. "You know where water is?" She nodded once. He looked outside. The heat was rising again. The desert burned during the day. The air could melt skin if exposed too long. But he didn't care. Within 1 hour, they were walking. She walked ahead, holding the pod close to her chest. Eli followed, limping slightly, using a metal pipe as a walking stick. The land was flat, dry and endless. No trees, no animals, no clouds. Just death. But they kept going. At one point, Eli stopped. He heard something. Movement in the sand behind them. He turned. Nothing. But the feeling stayed. Like someone or something was watching. By the time night came, the temperature dropped fast. The ground turned cold like ice. They stopped near an old rock hill. Eli made a small fire from broken ship parts and wires. They sat in silence. She looked at him, and suddenly lifted her hand. A small beam of light came from her fingertip. She touched his broken arm gently. His skin glowed for a second, and the pain faded. "Whoa," he muttered, surprised. She smiled. Just a little. It was the first time he saw her smile. Then one of the creatures in the pod made a strange sound. Soft cry. Its glow was almost gone. She quickly opened the pod and gave it a drop from a tiny vial around her neck. It was her last drop. Still not enough. The creature twitched once, then stopped moving. She held it in her hands. She didn't cry, but her eyes told everything. Eli looked away. He couldn't speak. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was something deeper. This was a mother trying to save her children. And he was the only one who could help her. Far in the mountains ahead, something ancient waited. Something that still breathed under the dead ground. They didn't know it yet. But they weren't the only ones walking this world. A strange bond. It began with a dream. Not Eli single quotes s. Hers. Via stood in a field of light. Her people laughed. Her creatures floated in the sky like stars. Water fell from silver trees, and the air was soft like music. Then fire came, screams, shadows. The ground broke open, and everything turned to dust. She opened her eyes, and the dream died with the wind. The morning was cold. The desert was quiet. Eli sat beside her, wrapping a cracked blanket around his shoulders. His lips were dry, his face sunburned. He had not slept. The pod beside them now held only 4 glowing creatures. Their light flickered like dying candles. He reached for his bottle. Empty. Still, he unscrewed the cap. Just in case. Nothing. Vira watched him. She said nothing. She didn't speak in words. She spoke in images, small lights from her fingers, painting stories in the air. But even without lights, Eli understood her now. They didn't need words anymore. They were connected by something stronger than language. Lost. They walked again, long steps, slow breaths. The mountain she showed him, where water might still flow, was still far away. By noon, the sun turned cruel again. Heat came like a hammer. Eli stumbled. Vira stopped, turned back, and offered her arm. He didn't want to take it. She insisted. He took it. By evening, they reached a canyon of black rocks. Strange markings glowed on the stone. Eli looked closer. It wasn't just rock. It was carved. Old, alien, ancient. Is this from your people? He asked. Vera nodded slowly, eyes full of memory. This place was once a temple. Now it was just bones of a lost world. She knelt beside one of the carvings and touched it. The stone lit up, showing a glowing path leading deeper into the canyon. Eli followed her, limping but curious. Inside the canyon, the wind stopped. The heat faded. Something moved in the shadows. Not Vera, not Eli. Something else. Watching, listening, waiting. They entered a large circular space. Broken walls, shattered machines, and dry fountains lay in silence. At the center was a tall black pillar with silver veins. Vera placed her hand on it. It lit up. The ground shook softly. A small pool opened in the stone. Water. Real water. Still, cold, pure. Eli's eyes widened. We found it, he said, smiling. Vera quickly opened the pod and placed it beside the pool. She gently let the creatures float into the water. Their lights brightened instantly. They danced. Alive. Safe. For now. Eli dropped to his knees, scooping water into his mouth. It was the best thing he had ever tasted. But as he drank, he noticed something. Vera did not drink. She sat quietly watching her creatures. A small smile on her lips, but her hands trembled. Her skin, once glowing, was dull. He crawled toward her and held out water in his cupped hands. She shook her head. He insisted. She looked at him, and for the first time, used her voice. Soft, dry, strange. For them. He stared at her. You'll die. She didn't answer. She looked at the water, then at him. And in that quiet moment, something passed between them. Not fear, not pain. Something human. Love? No, respect. Yes. They were no longer just a human and an alien. They were something more. Team. A bond. A story still unfolding. But the pool began to shrink. Fast. The water wasn't coming from underground. It was stored. Left behind long ago. It was running out. Eli stood up and looked around. No. No. Only a few minutes of water left. And only enough for one. Far above, on the canyon walls, something crawled. Something not dead. Something ancient. Something hungry. The desert was not empty after all. A choice to make. The water was almost gone. The creatures had stopped glowing, and something was coming. Sharp noise echoed through the canyon. Not wind. Not rock. Something alive. Claws on stone. Heavy, breathing in the dark. Eli froze. Vera stood quickly, pulling the pod close to her chest. Her eyes turned bright and alert. She knew that sound. She had heard it before, the day her world burned. Eli looked up. High on the rocks, a shape moved. A tall, thin creature. Its skin was like black glass. Its eyes glowed red. Not machine. Not animal. Something in between. It crawled down the canyon wall like a spider, slow and silent. Eli grabbed a sharp piece of broken metal. Stay behind me, he said. Vira didn't move. She stared at the thing with rage. The creature dropped to the ground with a hard thud. It opened its mouth, no tongue. No words. Just a scream like breaking metal. It charged. Eli swung the metal shard and missed. The creature hit him hard, throwing him into the wall. His vision blurred. Vera stood over him now, both hands glowing bright blue. She raised them. A wave of energy exploded from her chest. Boom. The creature flew backward, crashing into the canyon wall. But Vera fell too. The attack drained her. She coughed hard, blood on her lips. The creature wasn't dead. It stood again, slower now. Hurt. It didn't want water, it wanted the light. The creatures in the pod it had smelled their energy. Eli forced himself to stand. He couldn't fight it, not with his body, but maybe he didn't need to. He looked at the last bit of water in the pool. Barely enough for the creatures. Not enough for Vera. Not enough for him. He grabbed the pod, looked at her. She was breathing fast, fading. He looked at the water. 3 choices. Save Vera. Save the creatures. Save himself. No time to think. The creature charged again. Eli ran. Not away. Forward. He poured the water into the pod. The creatures lit up like stars, then shot upward in the air. They circled Vera and formed a barrier of light around her. The black creature screamed and lunged, but it couldn't pass the glowing shield. It melted into ash. Gone. Silence returned, but the water was finished. Eli dropped to the ground, breathing hard. His lips were dry. His vision turned dark. The heat returned. He smiled. Worth it, he whispered. Then passed out. Vera woke moments later. She saw him lying there. Still. Silent. She touched his face. Cold. Her creatures glowed around her, stronger now, floating with new life. She looked at them, then at Eli. She touched the pod gently. Then stood. There was still one way to save him, but it would cost everything she had left. Hidden Spring. The canyon was quiet now. Too quiet. Eli lay still on the ground. His chest barely moved. His skin had lost its color. His lips were cracked. He looked like a shadow of the man he once was. Vera knelt beside him. Her fingers touched his face gently. She closed her eyes. His heartbeat was slow, fading, like the last echo in a deep cave. The creatures hovered above them, glowing bright and alive. They had survived because of him. The human. He had given them everything. And now Vera had to choose. Let him die, or give him what little power she had left. But there was another way, a risky way, deep beneath the canyon, beneath the old stones. There was something hidden, a second spring. Her ancestors had buried it long ago, locked behind ancient biocode, only accessible to one of her bloodline, and only if the planet allowed it. She had never tried to reach it. She never thought she would live long enough to try. But now, she had no choice. Vera placed her palm on the stone floor. A soft pulse of blue spread out from her hand. The ground shook. The canyon responded. A circular stone behind her began to glow, then opened like a flower made of metal. A long stairway appeared, leading down into darkness. She looked back at Eli. Then at her creatures. They circled him slowly, resting close to his body like guardians. She nodded. Then descended into the unknown. The stairs led her into a tunnel of memories. Old lights flickered on the walls. Faint songs from her people whispered in the air, recordings from the time before war. She passed skeletons of machines, long dead. Symbols glowed as she walked by, recognizing her blood. The tunnel ended at a sealed chamber door. It was covered in silver roots like a sleeping heart. She placed her hand on the center. The door pulsed, then slowly opened with a deep sigh. Inside was darkness, and something else. A pool. Not like the one above. This water moved like it was alive, glowing, swirling, changing color. It was not just water. It was memory. It was life force. It was the core spring, but it came with a warning. Above the pool, ancient words floated in her language. She read them silently. One life to wake another. Choose wisely. She knew what it meant. This spring could save Eli. But it would take from her. Maybe her power. Maybe her life. Maybe. More. She touched the surface. Visions flashed in her mind. Eli as a child on earth. His daughter. His smile. His kindness. His pain. His loss. His choice. She saw herself through his eyes. Not a monster, not a stranger. But something close. Something human. She dipped her hands into the spring and collected a small vial. Then she turned and ran back up the stairs. When she reached the canyon floor again, the wind had picked up. The creatures were circling fast, now restless. Sensed Eli slipping away. She ran to him, opened his mouth, and poured the glowing liquid in slowly. Nothing happened. Then his chest moved. Once. Twice. He gasped for air. His eyes opened. Vera. He whispered. She smiled softly, but she looked weaker now. Her glow was almost gone. He saw it. You used it. For me, he said, voice shaking. She nodded. Then collapsed beside him. The creatures gathered around them both now. Their glow was stronger than ever. They were changing, evolving, becoming something new. And they had learned something from the human call on sacrifice. High above, dark clouds began to form. For the first time in years, it rained. The last drop. The rain was soft at first. One drop. Then another. It touched the dry sand like a secret, waking up the ground. For years the planet had known only silence and heat. Now, it listened to water. It remembered what it was like to be alive. Eli opened his eyes. Rain touched his face. It felt like a dream. He sat up slowly, coughing. Vera lay beside him, still pale, her glow fading with each breath. She had saved him, but now she was dying. The creatures floated in the air above them. They were different now. Their bodies were brighter, larger, pulsing with soft color. They had absorbed something, not just the water, but the human's will to give. They circled over Vera like stars guarding the night. Eli crawled toward her. Hey, stay with me, he said, shaking her gently. She opened her eyes halfway. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Eli looked around. The rain was not enough to save her. She had given him a second chance. Now he had to choose what to do with it. He reached into his bag. His water bottle was gone. Broken in the canyon fight. But there was something else. A silver injection tube. It was hidden in his emergency kit. Last resort hydration. A thick liquid filled with moisture and salt meant to keep one person alive for 24 hours. He stared at it. Then at her. No one's coming to save us, he whispered. It's just me and you. His hands shook. He remembered Earth. He remembered his daughter. He remembered the promise. Come home, Dad. He smiled bitterly. I'm sorry, kiddo. He broke the seal on the tube and placed it gently to Vera's neck. The fluid entered her veins slowly, for a moment. Nothing. Then her chest rose. Her eyes lit up. A faint blue glow returned to her skin. She gasped, looked at him. And knew. She knew what he had given. She reached for his hand. Held it tight. His head dropped. He was tired. So tired, but he smiled. Guess. It's your turn now, he said softly. The creatures floated lower, surrounding them both. Their bodies shimmered, then began to glow brighter, almost blinding. They touched Eli's chest, his face, his arms. They were not just creatures anymore. They were part of her. And now, part of him. Suddenly they fused together, creating a cocoon of light. Inside, Eli's body floated weightlessly. Outside, the rain grew stronger. The canyon began to bloom, small green shoots rising from cracks in the stone. Life was returning. Vera stood slowly, watching the light cocoon. Tears rolled down her face for the first time, not because of death, but because of hope. Above them, the clouds parted. Sunlight and rain fell together, and something ancient and powerful awakened deep beneath the planet's crust. Something that had been waiting, not for war, not for machines, but for one act of true giving. The gift the world had stopped dying. It didn't happen with fire. It didn't happen with war. That happened with a gift. Eli's body floated in the light. Still, silent. Wrapped in the glow of the creatures he had saved. The light pulsed like a heartbeat. Slow, strong, alive. The rain washed over the canyon, over the stones, over the broken ship. Flowers began to bloom in the cracks. Color returned to the world. Not much, just enough. Vera stood in the middle of it all. Her skin had changed, glowed brighter. Her eyes, once tired, now full of fire again, but her heart felt heavy. She looked at the light where Eli rested. A part of her wanted to pull him out. To bring him back. But she knew. This was not the end. Death was becoming. The creatures floated higher now. They had changed again. No longer soft and small. They had grown wings. Their light carried memory, emotion, and choice. They circled Vera once more, then lifted the cocoon toward the sky. Vera followed them through the canyon, to the edge of the cliff. The clouds opened above. Stars peeked through. The cocoon rose, higher and higher, until it vanished into the sky like a second moon. Gone. But not lost. Days passed, then weeks. Vera wandered the lands once more. But now, the ground beneath her feet was green. Rivers began to run again. Strange new flowers bloomed wherever she walked. She was no longer alone. She was carrying a legacy. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Vera sat under a tree, the first tree to grow in 100 years. A sound came from the distance. Metal wings. Engines. A ship. Human. The rescue crew landed carefully. They stepped out and scanned the area. Their scanners beeped. Life detected. But not just one. Life. Many. They looked around in awe. This world was dead. One whispered. Not anymore, said another. They spotted her. Vera, standing beside the tree. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She stepped forward, holding something in her hands. A small glowing crystal. Inside it, Eli's voice, his message. If you're hearing this. I didn't make it. But I didn't come here to survive. I came to matter. And I did. We did. The commander of the human crew stood still for a long moment. He took off his helmet and saluted. Not just to the voice, but to what it meant. Back on Earth, when the story reached the people, no one could believe it. A single human. A single alien, and a choice that changed a dying planet. No war. No heroes. No explosions. Just sacrifice. Just heart. Just humanity. Some called him foolish. Others called him brave. But the creatures? They called him something else. Father.